Welcome to our follow-up segment for Zealous for Zion. I'm Pat. Robert and Faith are on vacation for the next several weeks. So previously on Zealous for Zion, we were discussing whether the God of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity were the same God. Our last segment we discussed Islam, so this segment we're going to discuss Judaism and Christianity. Looking at the main components we adhere to at Zealous for Zion, we want to consider if the foundations of Christianity and Judaism have paganisms or idols in them. Both Judaism and Christianity use the Tanakh or the Old Testament. The creation story is the same. How sin entered the world is the same, and the story of Noah and the flood are all the same. In order to find out the root of paganisms and idols, we pick up with Genesis 12, where God tells Abraham to leave his father's house and to go to a land that he will show him, the land of Canaan. As we mentioned in our previous segment, this region is rooted in idol worship. God is removing them from the influences of the idols, from other gods, and he's going to take them to a land where he can form a nation, the nation of Israel. Throughout the narrative of the Tanakh or the Old Testament, God reminds the Israelites not to worship idols and oftentimes rebukes them and for them adopting of the pagan practices and other idols of the surrounding cultures. He gives them the Shema in Deuteronomy 6:4 that says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." Hence reminding the Israelites that there is only one God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And to teach their children the same principles so they do not adopt the paganisms of the surrounding cultures. The entire biblical drama of the Old Testament reflects on how the Israelites are blessed when they follow God, and when they don't follow God, they're corrected to turn back away from their idols. The entire Old Testament also speaks of a Savior, the coming Messiah. This is where Judaism and Christianity differ. Those Jews who practice Judaism believe that the Messiah is going to come. Historic and current Jewish believe that the Messiah was going to come and be a conqueror. They're looking for the Messiah to come back and reestablish the Davidic kingdom in Jerusalem. Christians and Jews who believe in the Messiah also believe that the Messiah will come and reign in Jerusalem. They also believe that Yeshua came prior in order to fill the scriptures that were written about in the Tanakh. In fact, there are over 300 scriptures contained within the Old Testament that show that Jesus is the Messiah and how he first came as the humble servant and will come back again as the ruler. In order to better understand this concept, believers in Yeshua, they use what's called the Brit Hadashah, or the New Testament that explains what happened in the Old Testament. So, in short, the New Testament is the Old Testament concealed. The Old Testament is the New Testament revealed. Summarizing what we have discussed in our last two segments, we have Christianity and Judaism being removed from the influences of paganism and idols, and God telling them that you need to worship only the one God. Whereas with Islam, we have those influences that are rooted in those idol worshiping areas and are still practiced to this day. Since one of our tenets at Zealous for Zion deals with paganism, we also want to point out that today all three of the faiths are still heavily influenced by idols, just as the ancient Israelites were. We also recommend that people should look towards God rather than looking towards false gods, deities, paganisms, tradition, and other things for personal fulfillment, and look towards the one true God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Well, this concludes our segment for Are the Gods of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam is the Same God? For our next segment, we want you to take a look at this video.
Believe in God.
Okay, can I ask why, or anything that led you to believe that way?
The only proof we have is a book no one knows who wrote or when it was written, and prove it.
We want to hear from you. Have you ever run into someone that doesn't believe in God and shared the gospel with them? If you don't believe in God, what would convince you to believe in God? We hear from you. We want to hear what you have to say. Check us out at zealousforzion.com